Okay guys, we're starting today with decimal quotient. Remember when we did the division, okay, we said this is a quotient, okay? So in our lesson decimal quotient, this quotient we want it to be a decimal number. It means that we have to keep in mind that we should be having no remainder, no remainder. Which one is the remainder? This one is the remainder. Okay, so when we are solving example 7 divided by 2, okay, we have over here 1 as a remainder. So in this lesson you have to keep in mind that I don't want to have a remainder and the quotient is going to be a decimal number. Okay, let's begin with the lesson. Okay, so this is the normal division that we reviewed last week. Okay, so over here we said I'm going to put a small multiplication sign, and since we have a one-digit divisor, I'm going to take one digit from the dividend. 2 times what gives me 1? There is no number, so we put 0. 0 times 2, it's 0. Then we subtract. Okay, so 1 minus 0, it's 1. Then what do? We bring down the 3. So 3, we bring it down. Now, 2 times what gives me 13, or a number closer to 13? It's 6. 6 times 2, it's 12. Okay, so far so good. You already know these things. Okay, now, we said at the beginning of the video that I don't want to have a remainder, and this should be a decimal number. So to do that, I'm going to have to take 2 steps. The first step is I'm going to put next to the 6 a decimal point, and next to the remainder I'm going to put a 0. So what I did was, next to the 6 I put a decimal point, next to the remainder I put a 0. Now I have over here a 10. 2 times what gives me 10? 2 times 5. So after the decimal point I'm going to put a 5. So 5 times 2, it's 10. Then I subtract. Do I have any remainder? No. Once again, another example. So we have 74 divided by 4, okay? Let's begin the normal division. 4 times what gives me 7, or a number closer to 7? We have 4 times 1. I'm going to put 1. 1 times 4, it's 4. Then I subtract. 7 minus 4, it's 3. Okay, now 4 comes down. 4 times what gives me 34, a number closer to 34? We have 8. 8 times 4, it's 32. Then we subtract. This is 2, 0. Now, we agreed that we have to put a decimal point here. Okay? And next to the remainder is 0. So I'm having a 20. 4 times what gives me 20? 4 times 5. So I'm going to put after decimal point a 5. 5 times 4, it's 20. Then we subtract. 0, 0. Do I have a remainder? No. Again. So we have 28 divided by 5. Since it's a one-digit divisor, let's take one digit from the dividend. 5 times what gives me 2? No number. I'm going to put a 0. 0 times 5 is 0. Let's subtract 2. Now 8 comes down. 5 times what gives me 28, or a number closer to 28? 5 times 5. So 5 times 5 is 25. Let's subtract. This is 3. This is 0. Can we keep the remainder? No. So what am I going to do? First, put a decimal point. Second, put a 0 next to the remainder. So 5 times what gives me a 30? 5 times 6. So 6 times 5, it's 30. Let's subtract 0 and 0. Our last example, let's divide 6 by 5. Okay? So 5 times what gives me 6, or a number closer to 6? 1. 1 times 5, it's 5. Let's subtract, and 6 minus 5, it's 1. What are we going to do? So the first thing that we're going to do, we're going to put a decimal point. So first thing, first step, we're going to put a decimal point. Over here, a decimal point. Okay, now the second thing that you have to do, we have to put a 0. Put a 0 next to the remainder. So over here, we have a 0. Now, 5 times what gives me 10? 5 times 2. So 2 times 5, it's 10. We subtract 0, 0. So in this lesson, decimal quotient. The quotient should be a decimal number. How to do that? When you start the division and you have a remainder, the first thing that you do, you put a decimal point. Then the second thing that you do, put a 0 next to the remainder and continue dividing.